Hey, what's up, everybody? So, man, this is a different kind of reaction. It is straight to the point. This is a rant. Rarely do I have negative things to say, but I do this time. This is a serious rant about certain things about the music industry that I do not like. Of course, I'm constantly sharing things with you that I do like. I'm constantly sharing reactions with you that I like. What you don't see behind the scenes are reactions that I do not like. I don't publish every single thing on my platforms that I react to. I sometimes put it back to the subscriber, the patron, whoever it is that's doing the recommendations, and I say to them, I'm sorry, for whatever reason, so and so and so, I do not like this, or this is not in accordance with my beliefs, my morals, my likes, my whatever it is, or I'm sorry, this reaches beyond the threshold of my sappy, corny ass threshold, or they might be going off with gangsta rap or death metal, something way out like that. So a number of the times I send it back to the person who's sending me the recommendations. Now, of course, they don't like it, they get pissed off, but hey, that's the way it goes. So what you're seeing on my platforms are always what I, Wayne, personally likes. That's the only pass that gets onto my platform, is if I like it. If I don't like it, you'll never see it. And I'm not going to share with you what songs and what artists and whatnot that I do not like. Now, this is a reaction that I'm going to be doing in regards to the music industry. Why music of today, we're generalizing on a broad scope here, is so awful. There's got to be a reason why. There's got to be a psychological, there's got to be an environmental, all of those factors. Just like I'm interested in checking out why the renaissance of creativity gave us so much fantastic music and these wonderful artists, I'm also interested to know what is the contributing factors to why music is so awful today. And like I said, we're generalizing with a very broad stroke. So, warning, do not come at me. If you don't like rants, if you don't like negative things, pass this by. Because if you come at me in the comment sections, I don't care who you are in danger of getting your ass blocked from my platform, right? This is only for like-minded people who feel the same way I do, and they basically feel that, there is definitely a disconnect going forward. I don't want to hear shit from you about, oh, you are just so and so and so. Yes, I am, because this is my platform and it's my opinion. Do you understand that? So if you come at me in a way saying that, oh, you're this and you're this and you're this and you're this, and you have nothing interesting to add, your ass is in danger of being blocked. I'm letting you know that right now. So, without further ado, this is coming by way of one of my very first subscribers, Akachita. And Akachita has a note. He says, "Hey Wayne, hope you're having a good day. Now that you're a couple of years into your reactions, I think you're noticing more than ever the difference between today's pop music and the music of what you so accurately refer to as the Renaissance period. You always try not to rant about it, so..." that's a long so, it's a couple of O's in there. "So, here I come provoking you with the question that always comes up when listening to the great music of the past. Why is modern music so awful? Well, here is a short 20-minute documentary, coincidentally, with that exact title, that sheds some light on that question with some very interesting and surprising information. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and commentary on this one, and hoping for lots of discussion from our little community, both on your Patreon channel and in the YouTube comment section." Akachita. In saying that, what we're encouraging here isn't a pissing contest. What we're encouraging here is a decent debate, decent exchange, that sort of thing. If we start getting into name calling, insulting people's moms, if some of you so-called Christians come up in my platform, you are the first that I usually block, right? You're with your holier than thou and all of this nonsense. I'm saying it again. This platform is not for you who don't share a certain point of view, and all you're doing is just basically just throwing shit, and you don't have anything positive to contribute. If that's you, watch yourself. You're in danger of being blocked again for the third time. So I'm drinking sugarcane rum, by the way, and when I am, I don't give a damn. So let's do this, man. First, we'll hit up Akachita's recommendation, and then after, I got something really interesting to read to you from one of my subscribers. So, without further ado, why is modern music so awful? Let's get it.
Hey, 42 here. On the 6th of December, 1966, four guys from
Cheers,
Liverpool
baby.
stepped into Abbey Road Studios and began to record an album. 333 hours and many questionable substances later, the Beatles had emerged, having produced their 8th album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It would go on to sell over 32 million copies worldwide and be named the greatest album of all time by Rolling Stone magazine and many other publications. It was highly experimental, using mold-breaking techniques and a huge array of unusual
Doesn't
instruments.
this guy look like Daniel?
The band had produced an emotional masterpiece that epitomised the so-called Summer of Love and was a true masterpiece of its time. Yet it remains just as relevant and powerful today. Fast forward 44 years to 2010, and Justin Bieber released his hit single, Baby. This is generally considered to be a bad move. So what went wrong? How did we go from Bob Dylan to Britney Spears, from Led Zeppelin to Lady Gaga, and the Kinks to Katy Perry? But who am I to criticise the musical tastes of the vast majority of today's youth? Personally, my musical tastes are stuck in the middle of last century.
Mine too,
but
bro.
you may think that just makes me old-fashioned, stuck in the past, and I should probably move with the times. But here's the thing. There is far more to this than simple nostalgia, and when your parents keep telling you that the music died long ago, they may actually have a point. Because it turns out that science agrees with them. Over the past 30 plus years, researchers have been studying how trends in music have evolved. And a recent study in 2012 by the Spanish National Research Council revealed that the suspicions of somewhat antiquated individuals, such as myself, are very true. Music is getting worse every year. The researchers took around 500,000 recordings from all genres of music, from the period of 1955 to 2010. And they meticulously ran every single song through a set of complex algorithms. These algorithms measured three distinct metrics of each song: the harmonic complexity, the timbral diversity, and loudness. The most shocking result that the researchers found was that over the past few decades, timbre in songs has dropped drastically. Timbre is the texture, colour, and the quality of the sounds within the music. In other words, the song's richness and depth of sound. The researchers found that timbral variety peaked in the 1960s and has since been steadily declining.
Soul of the music.
The timbral palette has been homogenized, meaning songs increasingly have less diversity with their instruments and recording techniques. This divide is clearly evident if we take what is widely considered to be the Beatles' masterpiece, A Day in the Life, which was recorded using an orchestra of 40 musicians. But this is not classical music, this is pop. The 5-minute piece contains violins, violas, cellos, double bass, harp, clarinets, an oboe, bassoons, flutes, French horns, trumpets, trombones, a tuba, and of course the four band members playing their usual instruments over the top. In contrast, Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines uses mostly one instrument, a drum machine. And yes, this is a rather extreme example, a song known for its one-dimensional but punchy bassline, but it represents an overall trend with modern pop music that the researchers found within their data. Instead of experimenting with different musical techniques and instruments, the vast majority of pop today is built using the exact same combination of a keyboard, a drum machine, sampler, and computer software. This might be considered as progressive by some people, but in truth it sucks the creativity and originality out of music, making everything sound somewhat similar. Do you ever flick through the radio and think to yourself, all these songs sound the same?
No contest.
Well, what the researchers found is that the melodies, rhythms, and even the vocals of popular music have become more and more similar to each other since the 60s. One facet of this homogenization of popular music was pointed out by musical blogger Patrick Metzger. Metzger noticed that hundreds of pop artists were using the exact same sequence of notes, in which there's a shift from the 5th note in a scale to the 3rd note and then back to the 5th. This sequence of notes is usually accompanied by a vocal wah-oh pattern. Metzger named this the millennial whoop, and it sounds like this.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
The millennial whoop can be found in hundreds of chart-topping pop songs created over the past few years, and its usage is becoming more frequent all the time. From Katy Perry's California Girls to Justin Bieber's Baby, literally every single major pop star today has included the millennial whoop in at least one of their songs. But why? Well, quite simply, familiarity. Our brain likes familiarity. The more we hear the same sounds, the more we enjoy them. The millennial whoop has become a powerful and predictable way to subconsciously say to the masses, hey, listen to this new song, it's really cool.
Psychedelic rock.
But don't worry, you
today.
will like it because it's also really familiar. Because you've actually heard it hundreds of times before. And in this wildly unpredictable world, this makes us feel safe. Sticking to the same cookie-cutter formula comforts people, and that's important. But what about lyrics? Well, I'm afraid it's bad news there too. Another study examined the so-called lyric intelligence of hundreds of Billboard chart-topping songs over the past 10 years. They use different metrics, such as the Fleischer-Kincaid Readability Index, which indicates how difficult a piece of text is to understand and the quality of the writing. This was the result. Over the past 10 years, the average lyric intelligence has dropped by a full grade. Lyrics are also getting shorter and tend to repeat the same words more often. We've gone from the absolute poetic beauty of Bob Dylan and Morrissey to, well, this and this. What if I also told you that the vast majority of chart-topping music in the past 20 years was written by just 2 people? What do Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, Ellie Goulding, Robin Thicke, Jessie J, Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, Ariana Grande, Justin Timberlake, Maroon 5, Pink, Leona Lewis, Avril Lavigne, Christina Aguilera, Kesha, the Backstreet Boys, Westlife, NSYNC, Adam Lambert, and will.i.am all have in common? The answer: they're songwriter. I'm not saying 100% of their songs, but a good chunk of all these artists' songs were written by the same Swedish man, a Mr. Max Martin. This one man is single-handedly responsible for over 24 number 1 singles and thousands of songs in the top 100 charts over the past decades. He has written universally recognizable tracks such as I Kissed a Girl, Baby One More Time, Since You Been Gone, California Girls, Shake It Off, and so many more. And if Max Martin didn't write it, then American singer-songwriter Lucas Gottwald most probably did. Known professionally as Dr. Luke, together with Max Martin, they account for the lyrics and melodies behind the vast majority of pop music today. You've likely never heard of them, and that is very intentional. These 2 men are the hidden pop factories behind virtually every single band that is played on the radio today, and probably every musical act you grew up with if you're under 30 years old. And you wondered why everything sounds the same. There are still popular chart-topping musicians that write the entirety of their own music today, but you have to look really, really hard. Research has also shown that the hook, the part of the song that really grabs us and pulls us in, is occurring
There are hands.
sooner in modern songs and they happen more often. Researchers believe this is because when it comes to music, our attention spans have drastically shortened. Unless a song instantly grabs us, our brain tends to shut off
Haynes.
and ignore it, often skipping to the next song. This shortened attention span is a trend amongst people that has only occurred in the past 10 years. And it's believed to have been caused by the instant access to millions of songs at our fingertips. It used to be the case that if you wanted to hear a song, you had to go out and buy that one single or album, take it home and play it. You would probably play it countless times because you had spent so much money on so few songs. Over time, you would learn to appreciate all the subtle nuances throughout the album. And then, the iPod happened, granting access to thousands of songs on one device, which eventually led to streaming. Today, we flick through songs on Spotify without much thought to each song's subtleties and unique talents. This has caused musicians and record companies to favour punchy bass lines that demand our attention and to stuff each song full of so-called hooks to instantly grab our attention and keep it for as long as possible. And they've also been doing something else in recent years to grab our attention. Something subtle, but so very powerful, yet so very, very wrong. For the past 20 years, music producers have been engaged in a war. The loudness war. The aim of this war is to produce louder music than your competitors, but how do you make music louder when the listener is in control of the volume, not the producer? Well, they use compression. You may have heard of dynamic range compression. It's the process of boosting the volume of the quietest parts of a song so that they match the loudest parts, thus reducing the dynamic range, the distance between the loudest part and the quietest part. This makes the whole song sound much louder than the uncompressed version, no matter what volume the listener has set their device to. It's like me standing in the middle of the street and mumbling nonsense to myself, occasionally whispers and sometimes speaking a bit louder. A few people might notice and avoid me. But then, if I were to compress my dynamic range, I would suddenly be bellowing out every single word at the top of my voice loudly and proudly. Suddenly, everyone turns around to look at the crazy man shouting in the street and the police would be called. But this is exactly why producers do it. As the market has become increasingly crammed with similar sounding pop music, making your song shout louder than all the others ensures it will be heard amongst all the competition. But there's a big price to pay for loudness. Dynamic range compression, when abused as it often is today, is an absolute travesty when it comes to the art of creating music. Where physics is concerned, the rule is that you can't make a sound louder than the volume it was recorded at without reducing its quality. Compressing a song's dynamic range strips away its timbral variety. It muddies the sound. Subtle nuances that would have before been very noticeable and could have been appreciated are now no longer nuanced. They sound exactly the same as the rest of the track. Listen to this short recording without any compression. Now hear what happens when the dynamic range is compressed to match that of modern pop music.
And the reasons they all sound alike.
Hear how everything sounds less punchy and vibrant? The drum beats stand out less. Everything just makes less of an impact. But at the end of the day, there is a very real reason why popular musicians and producers today don't stray away from their safe haven of repetitive, monotonous drum machines, unimaginative, factory-produced lyrics, rhythms stolen from the previous popular song then chopped up and changed slightly, and of course their ever-popular millennial whoops. It all has to do with risk. In the 50s, 60s and 70s, record labels would receive hundreds of demo tapes from budding young artists every week. They would sift through them and the most talented acts would be offered record contracts. Even if they weren't that special, it didn't matter too much. The record label would just throw a few £1,000s into marketing, and if the public liked their music, they would naturally gain traction and make it big. If not, they would fade away into the night. And this is crucial, because importantly, the public were voting with their ears for the best, the most talented musicians, singers and songwriters. We, the people, were the final judge and jury, the ultimate arbiter. And so musicians had to be really bloody talented to impress us enough to stick around and make more music. There was just no room for sloppiness or the untalented. But this method was risky, because many times record labels would pump thousands of pounds into an act that weren't destined to be, and their gamble wouldn't pay off, losing their investment. But when they signed the really big acts, it would balance the books. However, today, promoting a new band is more expensive than ever. Over time, the cost of breaking in a new artist onto the global music scene has skyrocketed. In fact, the IFPI reports that today, it costs anywhere between $500,000 and $3 million to sign a new act and break them into the music scene. That's a hell of a lot of money. Would you want to gamble with $3 million? No, neither do music producers. So, the industry has reacted by removing the risk. Instead of trying to find genuine musical talent, they simply take a pretty young face, usually from a TV talent show, and then simply force the public to like them by brainwashing them. Instead of allowing the public to grow to like an artist and make their own mind up about the quality of their music, the industry now simply makes you like their music, thus removing all the financial risk. Brainwash, you say? How on earth do they do that? Well, have you ever noticed how that popular new song seems to follow you around everywhere you go? It's on every single radio station. It's played in your favourite stores, the supermarket, all over the internet, and even in the latest Hollywood movies and popular TV shows. This is no coincidence. What that is, in fact, is the record label's $3 million making sure that that new single is quite literally everywhere, completely unescapable. You will hear it whether you want to or not. Remember, I was talking about the power of familiarity. It's called the mere exposure effect, a psychological phenomenon by which people develop a preference for things they see and hear often. Our brain releases dopamine when we hear a song that we've heard a few times before, and the effect only gets stronger with each listen. Can you remember the very first time you heard your favourite pop songs from the past 10 years? Whether it be Gangnam Style, Happy, All About That Bass, Blurred Lines, Hotline Bling. Did you truly like it the first time you heard it? Or were you, in fact, kind of repulsed? Did you have this brief moment when you thought, what the hell is this? But then you heard it a few more times and you began to think, well, I guess it's kinda catchy. And then your friends are all listening to it and you hear it a few more times and boom, it's your new favourite song and you can't stop playing it. If this has happened to you, then I'm afraid you have been brainwashed. The mere exposure effect has worked on you. Surely if a song is a truly great song, then you wouldn't need to force yourself to love it. You wouldn't need to be won over for a period of repeated exposure.
And you
would just like
the
it
next day.
the first time you heard it. We all have different musical tastes, but they are sadly being overridden, diluted and emulsified by the brainwashing activities of big record labels, the repeated and constant exposure to manufactured songs that we've heard 100 times before. Don't get me wrong, there are many fantastically talented bands out there today, but in today's industry, virtually none of them will ever be signed because they are simply too risky to promote. Because they don't fit the usual pop formula. They are different. But being different is important. You may be thinking, so
Mr.
what have I been
Renaissance period.
brainwashed? I enjoy contemporary popular
Everybody
music.
had a chance.
And isn't that what's most important at the end of the day? Yes, of course. Music is an expression of your personality, and it should be enjoyed no matter what others think or say. But it's also really important to not let creativity and originality disappear. Music as an art form is dying. It's being replaced by music which is a disposable product designed to sell, but not to inspire. So we shouldn't be so complacent in allowing systematic, cold, factory-produced music to dominate, or else the beautiful, soulful and truly real music that we've all at some point loved and has been there with us through our darkest times and our happiest times could soon be a distant memory, never to be repeated. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please click here to support me on Patreon, which really helps out the channel, and you can get some cool rewards like early access to all my videos. Click here to watch another video, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe.
I'll check out your channel, brother. I'll definitely give you a like. We'll see about subscribing. I might do that too. That was excellent. Hey, let's face it. He's basically confirming pretty much everything that we know already. It was a little bit eye-opening about just those two specific songwriters being responsible for just a fan of artists out there, but it makes sense, doesn't it? That formula, that so-called winning formula that favors the industry only for profit, that totally makes sense. And you walk into it, if you are a Katy Perry or you are a Taylor Swift, you're already preconditioned to conform to a certain way of doing your music. If you had a creative flair and if you wanted to go in a couple of different directions, you're like, no, I've got to make it big. And the way to make it big is to comply and to actually do my music like this, look like this, sound like this. Why? Because the industry needs me to be that way. And that is how I'm going to make it big. So to a certain extent, you got to sell your creative soul. Sad shit. Back in the day, man, that renaissance of creativity not only gave us artists that had the ability to create, but they had the freedom to be expressive. They had the freedom to go and to actually try something really, really different. And a lot of the times, different worked, you know? Not today. I believe that a lot of artists, when they are starting out, let's just say that your kid, my kids get together and they form a band. What's the advice that we would give them? Well, first of all, if they're good, if they're really good, then I would say something like, follow the path less traveled. Follow the path, let's say, that Led Zeppelin took. They knew how good they were. They knew that they had something elemental, and they knew also that the industry would try to control them. And back in the days, they had to go through a certain path. They had to jump through a certain number of hoops, but they refused to. They said, we are going to craft our own path. We're not going to rely upon the marketing from Rolling Stone. We're not going to rely upon TV and all of this sort of thing. It's going to be word of mouth alone. And we're going to craft the album so that it's an album-oriented listen, not just singles. And we're also going to craft our album so that we can take advantage of the new FM platform. And so they really had a good craft, but in the end, they decided to do their own thing, be their own gods. You know what I mean? They knew they had the gold. Those who have the gold makes the damn rules. Led Zeppelin were not liked by the media outlet because they were the masters of their own path. They took their own way, and they did not comply to what the media at the time wanted. They also had help. They had the form of a great manager, Peter Grant, who was a bulldog and protected them, and they also had Ahmet Ertegun, the CEO of Atlantic, who allowed them that creative freedom. He had enough faith in them that, yeah, you know what? I will allow you to go wherever you want to go. If we had our kids starting up a band right now in this day and age, and they were really good, they've got to be really good, That's what I would tell them to do. Because what this guy just presented, this is what you have to look forward to. This is the rapids that you've got to traverse. You've got to navigate through all of this shit, right? That's what I would tell them. Wow, what a tumultuous undertaking though. But you know what? This is stuff that we all know. This guy is just breaking it down for us bit by bit and really confirming what we all knew in here. You know what I'm talking about? It's interesting. He was talking about also the beat machine, and when he started talking about the drum machine and everything, I immediately thought of Rick Beato when he did that comparison between a drum machine and John Bonham's drumming. I believe the track was. It wasn't Kashmir, it was Fool in the Rain. And he played the back-to-back, and you could tell, even though it was the same track, you can tell whose drumming it was. You can tell the track that contained John's drumming. It had more life, it had more essence. And I believe he's calling it timbre. So yeah, man, there's just so much essence missing from the music. It's been watered down, it's been sculpted, it's been just dissected, and now all we've got is just this basic tunnel sounding sound that's just so generic. And the programming and the brainwashing, wow, you know, it's basically an attack from all sides. The music, the way it's created, the way it sounds, the mass media, and all of the influences, social pressure, peer pressure. I mean, you know, I'm a product of that. For the longest time, over 30 years, I was a closet fan of rock and roll. Why? Because my R&B friends, my hip hop friends, my rap friends, all of those friends, I feared their judgment. Oh my gosh, the girls that I used to date, if they knew that I really liked David Bowie, oh my gosh, what would they think? You know what I mean? That was the stupid, irrational fear that I had when I was younger. So I can totally understand being a millennial now, and here we are trying to introduce them into something new. It's a fight just to kind of get into their minds and say, hey, you know, this is the Rolling Stones. Listen to this song. Try and get a feel for what they're trying to say. Try and get a feel. Yes, I want you to pay attention to the damn lyrics because they got something to say, right? Listen to War Pigs. What are they trying to tell you? Listen to that really fantastic piece of instrumentation in the middle. Damn, what's it called? Luke's Ladder. Where they're just going into this valley of instrumentation, stretching that song out, making it epic. Listen to this. They have to be taught how to listen. Do you remember when I was first starting out with my channel? A lot of the times, a lot of you would say, check this out, check this out, check this out. And then I would come back to you and say, you're going to have to tell me how to listen, what to listen for, where am I going with this? And see, a lot of you had to train me, right? I can't remember who it was that recommended yes. Do you remember the first reaction to yes that I had? And do you, man, do you remember how lost I was trying to decipher the lyrics of yes? Or my first reaction, my Pink Floyd's, yo, man, I was tripping for a week listening to that shit. So with our millennial kids, they have to be taught how to listen because, yeah, man, they have been conditioned and they have been brainwashed. We who are older, and some of you older cats who were around back in the days to watch the Rolling Stones come up, to watch the Beatles come up, you are not brainwashed because you've got the overall big picture. You've got the blessing of that. And you guys also have the it's your pedigree. You've been brought up with it. You've been around it. You've seen the development of classic rock, all the way from the Chuck Berrys, all the way up till the late 80s with the Van Halens and the Aerosmiths. You guys have seen the entire turn of classic rock. You know what I'm saying? With people like me who are now coming into classic rock and getting to know it, and our millennial kids, it's we have to be conditioned, we have to be tuned in, because for the most part, we're brainwashed. You know what I mean? For me, it's like growing a new ear of appreciation to listen and then to appreciate it. And I'm open to it, though. That's the difference. I am open to it because I know that great music overall is wide and it's all encompassing. Got that from my folks. And they're the ones that said that to me. I forgot about it for a while. I went prodigal. I was chasing the booty, and the booty was listening to this music. All of my friends were listening to this music. There's no way Marcus or Tyrone would ever allow the Rolling Stones to be played in one of their parties. You know what I'm saying? So when I started doing my reactions, it was like they looked at me, snapped their necks, and gave me one of these and said, "Yo, what the hell are you doing? You're black." That was the first thing that I heard. What happened? I was starting not to be invited to a lot of parties anymore, right? And all of these different things. So it comes at a cost. That's my point. It comes at a cost of tuning yourself in, being open-minded, and going forth. So these channels, it was the effort as a result of kind of coming back to that realization. Why? Because if you keep yourself closed off to all different types of things, in a way, you're prejudiced, aren't you? Yeah. So I'm talking to my friends now, because there's still some of them that are still hanging on to this shit and still playing judgment. 3 years later, my channel is still around, still acting stupid like that, right? But a lot of us are like that where it comes to compartmentalizing music and judgment. These so-called Christians that come into my platform. Do you guys remember when Black Sabbath was Artist of the Month? Do you remember all of that shit that these so-called Christians caused in my comment section? And this was still at a time when I was new and younger, and I didn't have my parameters set, and I didn't discover the blocking button yet. But that particular month I did, and I took the entire grouping of them that came in causing trouble, being judgmental to the fans of Black Sabbath, and I blocked a whole bunch of them. Up until that point, I didn't even know how to block somebody, so I just quickly got in touch with YouTube, and I said, how do I block people? And they're, oh, just do this. Boom, done, gone, right? So there's a lot of people who are so close-minded, but they're also very judgmental to other people enjoying things, being open to things. Not here, man. I have no tolerance for that. Whether you're a Christian, long-time subscriber, long-time patron, you show that kind of ignorance, that kind of prejudice, that kind of judgment, you are done, gone. So, I got something else to share with you. Let's take you back to last year, back to August of 2020, man. And I did a reaction, a complimentary quad featuring Kansas. This is complimentary quad number 59, and it was back in August of 2020. And in that particular reaction, I was going off on radio stations, classic rock radio stations. I tune into a classic rock radio station. And now this is my appreciation for specifically classic rock, right? I consider it to be a very hallowed, sacred, special element of music. That's why I don't mix and match my classic rock with other things. That's why I've said to a lot of people, it's not classic rock, it goes on the Beyond platform. And, some people get upset, but they understand, especially a lot of classic rock fans. Most people understand, right? So, here we are now, in this day and age. You turn on a classic rock radio station, what are you going to hear? You're going to hear the Rolling Stones. You're going to hear the Beatles. Then you're going to hear Culture Club. Then you're going to hear Dexy's Midnight Runners. And then it's going to flip back to Led Zeppelin. And then it's going to go back to Katy Perry or some shit like that. Hey, this is my rant. Classic rock radio stations have no right calling themselves classic rock radio stations if they do not stick to the format of what classic rock is. Well, what do you format classic rock as being? Well, classic rock in a timeline sequence is from, let's just say, the early mid-60s to the early mid-80s. You know, there's a little bit of overlap consideration. And besides the time factor, there's also the signature sound, the guitar-led sound. You know what I'm talking about? Most people with an intelligent brain in their damn heads know what the hell I'm talking about when I say classic rock. That is what most people go by. Those two things. You can argue as much as you want, but in the end, you're just being deliberately ignorant. Classic rock is classic rock, right? The signature sound plus that time factor, those are your two guides. And those are the guides that I use to screen out certain music. I'm sorry, even though they have a really good classic rock sounding signature, the Red Hot Chili Peppers do not belong on my classic rock platform. I remember, man, that the comment sections, one very, very troublesome subscriber / patron was causing all kinds of shit because he believed that it belonged on my station. And when I said that it does not, he got all pissy and to the point where I had to block his dumbass. So, you know what? Those are the parameters, right? Let me read you what Melvin Perry said. No relations to Katy Perry. I don't think so anyway. So this is last year. I've been sitting on this since last year. It's 2 paragraphs, and this is what, after my rant, and basically my rant was saying, yeah, how come we don't hear more classic cuts like Kansas, the classic era of Genesis, the progressive, the psychedelic? All we're hearing now are a whole bunch of newer stuff. Well, Wayne, you know, Hungry Like the Wolf is 30 years old, so therefore technically it's a classic. No, to hell with that shit. You know what I'm talking about when I say classic rock. So this is what Melvin Perry says. Classic rock radio stations are actually doing a disservice to the people, especially the young kids who may be listening to those stations. The rich catalog of cuts from that diverse era of the 70s is so full of beautiful, outstanding songs that one could go all week and not hear the same song twice. The renaissance of creativity he's talking about. However, these stations play the same 100 songs over and over, and some poor kid who wants to know about the era thinks that the only thing Hendrix ever did was Hey Joe, and the only thing that Jethro Tull ever did was Aqualung. And oh, let's not forget hearing Hotel California a million times a week. It's disgusting to me because I'm so well versed in that 70s music that it pains me because I know what's being missed and not played, and it's a damn shame. I was a preteen in the 70s, but there was so much diversity on the radio that at my fingertips, with either a transistor radio or the big console radio in the living room, that I was fortunate to have heard a boatload of music before I even became a musician. Plus, he's a musician. Today's classic rock radio has bit the dust because of being run by corporate entities who dictate what they play. If I was a kid today, I wouldn't like classic rock because of what they're playing. The only saving graces are reaction channels like this on YouTube that would introduce me to just how great that music was if I was a kid today. Keep up the great work, brother, and peace. Right on, man. Thank you very much, Melvin. And in my comment, I said, that was beautiful. I said the same things a while back about today's classic rock radio stations. I met with some turbulence. LOL. I'm going to borrow this paragraph, okay? Right on. And he gave me a thumbs up. So, like I said, I've been sitting on this since August of 2020 because I knew that at some point in time, I didn't know exactly when or how it was going to formulate, but I knew that I was going to be reading this quote. I knew that I was going to be ranting. I knew that at some point in time, it was going to come to a head. You know what I'm saying? And this is it. A year in the making. Much longer because, I started my classic rock reaction channel and I would tune in to the odd classic rock station when it crosses my mind, and I would be listening for interesting things. And like he said, man, on a road trip, check this shit out, man. I went down to Jacksonville to visit my friend Jack in Jacksonville. And started from the West Coast at the very tip from Seattle. Made my way all the way down, listening to classic radio stations as I went through different areas. And I swear to you, I probably heard Hotel California about 25 times. It took me 3 days because I was driving and I was stopping and doing different things. But let me tell you, man, it was a shame because I heard Hotel California at least 25 times, and I'm thinking to myself, geez, man, I know that classic rock is probably the biggest genre, the biggest body of music. Why am I hearing this shit? Even though I love the music, why am I hearing this shit so often? Why am I hearing, what else was I hearing? Stairway to Heaven so often. Let me hear some classic cuts from Kansas. Let me hear some classic cuts from Chicago. Let me hear some of these classic cuts. Do a lunch hour special and just go back in time and say, yeah, we're featuring this really, really cool album from back in the day. Let us not forget this shit. This is how these guys created. This was their signature sound before they became this. Do you remember when Fleetwood Mac was the artist of the month? By the end of that month, whenever I say Fleetwood Mac, immediately my mind goes to Peter Green, not to Buckingham Nicks. As great as they were, as great as that period was, my mind now goes to Peter Green. Why? Because I've been educated and I realize, holy shit, there is more to Fleetwood Mac. They had a past. They had a great rock foundation past. They had a blues-inspired past. And my father said to me, oh, you're doing that shit? You go all the way back to my bro, Peter Green. You hear me, boy? Don't you dare go through that whole period without doing the Peter Green years. I'll be watching. That's how he talks. And so my point being is, with our millennial kids today, we got to take them back in time. I know it's easier said than done, but this is what Melvin was writing. The kids of today, so-called classic rock radio stations, are not doing them justice because they're not really giving them that education, right? They're not taking them back to the beginnings of Pink Floyd. I'm talking with Syd Barrett Pink Floyd. You know what I'm talking about? That is the real rock and roll. You're taking them back to the foundation, the Renaissance, as Paul McCartney said, where that creative bug was in the air. Introduce them to Cream, man. Let them know who Ginger Baker was and shit. Stuff like that. So that is what I'm talking about, where it comes to this great body genre specific of classic rock. I really love it very much. I have great appreciation for it. I don't give a damn what my friends say, what my friends think of me, the ones that are still around. Yes, I've kicked so many of them to the curb you would not believe over this, a reaction channel. Can you believe it? My little hobby, my little side hobby. Some people judge me so harshly for it that I actually had to tell them to hit the bricks. Had to tell a couple of girlfriends to hit the bricks. Yo, right? You're demanding more of my time. This is all I can give you. Oh, you don't like that? Door, right? That's how it is, man. You got to be savage sometimes when you are doing something that you believe in, when you're doing something that you love. It's not always going to be kittens and rainbows. You're not always going to be the popular one. And you got to take the shit sometimes. I mean, a number of people come at me really, really hard sometimes. And I think to myself, what the fuck am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? Because of the love of the music and the great artists that sacrifice so much to give us these wonderful works. And here we are, these classic rock radio stations and the music industry just trying to hide and deny the creative process. The odd time, you got a really, really nice break in the clouds. Sunshine breaks through the clouds, and then somebody sends me a recommendation for a great artist, and I'm like, yo, this is fantastic. Not all of the industry is like this. Like I said, JJ Grey and Mofro, man, the great Daryl Hance, there are great talents out there. You just got to have an open mind. Sometimes you got to go seeking, but they're still out there. They're still creative. And sometimes it's in the form of somebody doing a very small effort. Why? They're doing their own thing and they're not conforming to the industry. So therefore, they're still going to fall under our radar. So we got to go seeking, unfortunately. Easier said than done because we lead very busy lives. So it takes a little bit of time, doesn't it? But here we now have a platform called Beyond Classic Rock. Even though it's not classic rock, it still showcases a lot of contemporary talent today. Look at Radiohead, look at Tool, and look at a lot of folks that were great back in the day, but did not have that notoriety. So like Nick Drake, for example. I never heard of Nick Drake until a couple of weeks back. So there's some great stuff out there that we would totally have missed if not for this great collective body of people who are the subscriber and the viewer base on YouTube. So you know what, man? It's great that we have this. And, the exposure has been excellent for me where it comes to my education. A lot of viewers really compliment and say, hey, yeah, it's great that all of these reaction channels exist because it's introducing me to new things. You personally, I like your style because, your tone and everything else is a little bit more my speed, whereas other people might want a little bit more on the entertainment factor, so they got to go somewhere else. But I've got some people who start and end their day with me. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I'm just this little guy with 20,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel, but there, for the amount of people that are on my channel that are subscribed, almost twice that many are viewers. So I pretty much have exposure and influence over close to about 50,000 viewers, not just the 20,000 subscribers. That's important because a lot of people are saying to me, yo, Wayne, I start and I end my day with you, brother. My oldest subscriber, as far as I know, George Walker, he has dementia. And when he has his moments of clarity, you know what he says to his wife, Fiona? What did I miss on Soul Train, bro? Catch me up to what I've missed. Once in a while, he'll send me a message saying, hey, that was great. That was fantastic. How are you keeping? I hope that you're staying strong and solid. Be true to yourself. Encouraging words that an older, wiser person will give you. And that's important because I'm connecting to people on a certain way, right? Very important shit. So YouTubers are doing great things and the music being kept into the conscious awareness of our people today. It's important because as far as I know, my youngest subscriber is 11 years old. Sorry for my swears, but that's just the way it is. The COPPA nonsense, I threw that out the door. Can you believe it? I actually, to stay in compliance with COPPA, sometimes it's good to swear. Crazy world we live in. But listen, man, that is the end of my rant. I just wanted to kind of come at the reaction channel in a little different way, from a different direction this time around. And the bottom line of this is I believe that more work has to be done on the part of the industry to allow creativity to happen again like the Renaissance period. That's basically my overall point, and that's the rant. So it's a negative rant, but it's basically going forward to encourage a positive outcome. That's basically what I'm after. So yeah, the industry being the music industry, the marketing element of that industry as well being the classic rock radio stations. Don't sell out. Find a way to, compromise if you have to compromise because it's a profit thing. But at the same time too, man, there is room. There's got to be room made for the real classic rock. Kansas, go back to the deep cuts of Kansas. Find a way to feature Kansas once or twice a week. You can probably go an entire week on a classic rock radio station and not hear Kansas once. Or maybe Dust in the Wind or Carry On Wayward Son. But all of their fantastic, great deep cuts, some of their live stuff, where is it? So shit like this has to be played on a little bit of a regular so that we know that, yeah, there was more to these guys than just their surface level signature songs, their commercial hits. Go deep. And as a classic rock radio station, you will be very, very well respected if that shit means anything to you at all. All right. So, y'all, that is my rant, my sugarcane infested rant. I warned you, it's not for the faint of heart. When I get raw with my raw pressed sugarcane rum, I really go in. But this reaction, this rant, has been coming for a whole year, and Akachita sending me this was that moment. You kind of say, okay, it's time. I've been saving this for a year. Why? Because it's building to something, and then you recognize when that time is. So this was the time. Anyway, Akachita, thank you very much. I appreciate you, man. Melvin Perry, thank you very much. I haven't seen you in the last little while, so if you're seeing this, give me a shout out, all right? I'm just checking down, going down here, checking my... So I got some Led Zeppelin coming. It's going to be a live bootleg, but before that, I'm going to do the Coverdale Page reaction. There's another Jimmy Page interview that I want to get to. I really dig that shit, man. And then at some point, I'm going to also hit up Page with the Black Crowes. So once I that'll be a little bit of my element of Page, and then I'm going to shift my focus towards Plant and Jones, right? If you haven't caught it yet, I did a quad 2 weeks ago on Jason Bonham and how he complements the Led Zeppelin sound so well, but he's doing his own thing, and so in my opinion, that guy should be much, much bigger. He should be just as renowned today as Led Zeppelin was back in their heyday, but it's the industry probably keeping him down. Sad, sad, sad. Yeah, so that's basically it, man. That's what I got going on in the next little while. Got reactions for a whole bunch of people. I'm a little bit too flashed up on sugarcane rum to remember it all. So I'll just say thank you very much for joining me. Pardon my rant. And another warning, you come at me with all kinds of stupid shit and you don't have anything good to contribute, your ass is out. Seriously, on a serious note. Like I said, when I'm drinking sugarcane rum, liquid courage, I don't give a damn, right? But thank you very much for this, Akachita. I appreciate it, man. This was really, really good. A great eye-opener, man. And I hope that the industry, at some point in time, recognizes that they have to allow creativity to come back. They have to give it a platform of opportunity, like the Ahmet Ertegons. A whole bunch of people like that have to come together and make way, kind of like Moses parting the Red Sea. Make a hole, man, make room, allow some creative input to come through. And it would be great to have another renaissance, wouldn't it? That would be fantastic. You can say, oh my gosh, man, yes, my parents and grandparents had their time back in the 60s and the 70s, and now look, man, it's now starting to evolve, and now it's our time. This is another renaissance in the making. Wouldn't it be great to be able to say that? Let me tell you, that would be fantastic. Anyways, y'all, I'm just talking now, so have a good one. Take care. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in another reaction. Peace.